Um, Hello there, my name is Daniel Gordillo, and in this video I'd like to show you a kaiju head creation process. Kaiju is a Japanese word used to describe a giant monster or beast, like the one in the Godzilla movies, or more lately Pacific Rim, the movie by Guillermo del Toro. Okay, first I started by adding a sphere into the scene. The sphere was subdivided a couple of times, so I could have a mesh with a fair amount of faces to start working with. And then I got into sculpt mode. I turned on the X-axis symmetry and the dynamic topology feature, and using the snake hook tool I started to build up the basic form of the head, just trying things out. Okay, as you can see, at this point I became aware of the neck being in the wrong position. It needed to come out from the back of the head, more like an animal. Dynamic topology is a great tool to use when you need to create a character out of nothing. It lets you focus in the artistic aspect of the process, because you don't need to think about the geometry. As you keep sculpting, the faces are created or deleted as needed. You know, I mentioned Pacific Rim before. I have to say I was working with some of the movie concept art in mind. I remember one of the creatures having a shark-like pointy head, just like a big horn. I didn't want to copy the original design, but to create my own. So I got a very basic shape and started to add details. I fixing the jaw and deciding where the eyes could be, and the number of the eyes too. Some of the monsters in Pacific Rim had more than 2 eyes, so I decided to give this one 4 eyes. But first I needed to make the cavities, the eye sockets, and to fix a little of the details of the head to make the horn bigger and wider. I wanted to make it some arrow shape. Just sketching. Okay, I got to make the eyes. The eyeballs. First I set the 3D cursor as a pivot point, because when I had to duplicate the eyes as linked objects, I used this pivot point to mirror the eyes pressed Alt D to duplicate the eyes as linked objects, and then Control M to start the interactive mirror, and then press X to mirror along the X axis. Enter, just like that. Okay, the next step was to make the teeth, and I started by making a single tooth out of a cone object. As you can see, this object had a cast modifier, and using an empty, I could give this cone a slight curve. I applied the modifiers and then scale down the tooth, and started putting one by one these kind of fangs. The cone had three modifiers. It had a subsurf modifier, a simple deform, and the cast modifier, the one that gave it that curve. Okay, there you go. All the teeth in their place. Okay, I had the head just like I wanted, but I needed a small detail in the back of the head. I wanted to create some kind of a vertebral column, so I created a single object. I sculpted the object like I wanted. Then I use an array modifier to multiply that object, or to create multiple instances. And then I used a curve modifier to make it follow that curve, then I subdivided the control points inside the curve, so this followed the shape of the back of the head. It's like this. And the last control point, I needed an extra object in the array modifier there. Well, after that I didn't felt like it was okay, so I added a lattice object. This lattice this is like a cage deformer. I scale it so the vertebral column is inside the cage, and then I add control points to the cage. So I start deforming this cage, and the object inside it follows. That's more like it. The ones in the tip should be smaller, and the ones in the back should be wider and bigger. There. Okay, I'm going to add more control points to do some fine tuning to the deformation. So when the object is ready, I added to the main object a Boolean modifier. So this vertebral column could be united with the central mass, like this. And the next step was to just apply the modifier and clean the result with inside the sculpt mode, and using the dynamic topology I'll just clean it up. I used some vertex color layers using the Dirty Vertex plugin to produce this nice looking like shadow. How could I call them? Shadow passes? No, I don't know. But I use these layers to create some skin shaders. It's a way of really create some quick and nice looking shaders. So this is like the clay render. It's a viewport render, really. This is the cycles render with the vertex color shaders and some procedural textures. That's all. See you next time.